Hello and welcome to episode 5.
Today we're going to talk about 3 different trips that you can take that will take about 4 days for your family to complete. The first one is going to be the longest distance, and it's going to be whitewater rafting in the New River area of West Virginia.
Along the way, you might stop at the West Virginia State Capitol building. Most of the routes take you right alongside so you can actually see it from the interstate.
That's in Charleston. And there's also a lot of beautiful scenery along the way with waterfalls and other scenic features. So one of the once you get to the New River, one of the main things that you're going to want to see first is the New River Bridge.
And the New River Bridge is on the state quarter for West Virginia.
The bridge got completed in 1977 and was the longest steel span bridge in the United States at the time and the third highest in the United States.
And on the third weekend in October, they actually close the bridge so people can base jump off of it.
Base jumping means buildings, antennas, spans, which would be bridges, and earth. So that's how they get B, A, S, and E for base jumping. They also allow you to walk across the bridge on that day. There's food vendors, a lot of really fun activities that happen that one time a year.
Normally it's just a highway.
So there's the river from up above. You can see it doesn't look very treacherous, but when you're on the water, it's a much different story.
Yep, and you can see the train runs alongside it too.
So this is a picture of us actually whitewater rafting. This is probably a class 3 or class 4 rapid, probably class 3. It's on a scale of 5.
And we're wearing a lot of clothes because very heavy wetsuits. It was their icebreaker weekends, which are really cheap, but weather can vary. Some years we've been there and it's been in the 50s, and the water in the 50s also. Some years it's actually hit 80 degrees, so the cold water felt good.
Go back one. Just a little bit more about the area. So you drive there on day 1. Day 2, you can whitewater raft. Day 3, you can do horseback riding, zip lines. You can check out a state park that's just north called Hawks Nest State Park with lots of hiking trails. So many different types of family activities. Depending on which part of the river you want to raft, you need to make sure you check out the age limits because you do have to be a certain age to be eligible to go on the river. So the Lower New, the Upper New, and the Gully each have different age requirements.
Yep. And there's also rock climbing for those of you who like to be a little bit of thrill seekers. Although this is quite a thrill seeker, I guess, too. So
The next spot is going to be Cuyahoga Valley National Park, not quite as far away as whitewater rafting. You can see there's a few different routes to take you to this national park in Ohio.
yep, the shortest route will take you right through Fort Wayne, Indiana, and there's a lot of historic things in Fort Wayne. Obviously, the old fort, the downtown they've really revitalized and made really nice. Headwaters Park is a very nice park downtown. They have a single A baseball team that's actually the stadium is downtown and very close to a lot of restaurants and other places.
That would be a good way to split your trip to Cuyahoga Valley National Park in half. Fort Wayne would take you about 3 hours, and then you have another 3 hours to go. So a nice day 1, getting yourself to Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Just a scenic picture from Ohio. Okay, so this national park is very long from north to south. It goes almost all the way from Cleveland in the north to Akron, Ohio in the south. This is just one very small section of the map. The map, if you get a paper copy, it folds out multiple times. It's narrow, but it's very long. It's also got great maps on the website. So you want to make sure you grab your national park passport take it with you for different stamps at the various visitor center. This map has Boston Mill Visitor Center on it.
Yep. The map also shows you different depots. You guys see the red dots with the little wing-like pieces coming off of each side. And there's a train that actually runs all the way alongside the trail. And a lot of people actually bike down the trail one way and will take the train back to where their car was parked.
It's only $5 for bikers to take the train, so it's a great deal for a one-way, especially if you're a person that doesn't like to do the same scenery twice. So you can do the biking one direction all day long, 25 miles if you want, and then take the train back. If you don't want to bike but you want to take the train, it's $15 per person round trip, and you can get on and off of the train at the different spots. So you could stop at a depot, do some trails, eat a meal, see some things, and then get back on the train later.
And this kind of gives you an example of some of the maps along the way. So even though it's a long trail, there's actually a lot of hiking trails at various spots, and you can find these maps at the visitor center. You can find the maps online, and the maps are really good. They kind of show you the distance of the trail, the elevation change, whether it's an easy trail, difficult trail, roughly how long it might take you. Very helpful.
For a person in really good shape like Miles, the elevation change in the topographic map isn't that important. But for a person like me who's not in very good shape, I look for trails that have not very many lines that you're crossing over. Those are the topographic lines, and it tells you how steep the trail is. So the less lines you're crossing perpendicularly, the shallower the trail is, which means it's easier hiking.
So Michelle would do a lake trail, where I would do the Salt Run Trail. And then we'd meet back later.
So we chose to go to this national park for the first time in the fall. You can see the picture on the left. Really, really great fall foliage. You do risk colder temperatures. We chose to tent camp. Camping is a very cheap way to see the country, but it can also be a cold way or a wet way to see the country as well. So that's just something to consider based on the time of year you go. There are several places that you can camp, but the weather might determine whether that's the best course of action.
And the biggest negative is there's no showers in this national park. And so even though we camped there, we had to find showers. And there are some showers just outside of the park. Different places have actually built showers so you can use them. You just put quarters in or dollars in, and you get 4 minutes worth of a shower for a certain amount of money.
And I have no recollection of that. So there's a lot of waterfalls in this park. Again, probably dependent on the time of year. If it's midsummer and you've had a dry spell, maybe some of these falls wouldn't be quite as spectacular. But in the fall, there were quite a few really great waterfalls.
And there were a lot of aqueducts as well along the trail.
One interesting thing to note was that there was the buildings in the towns that were surrounding the national park. Some of them had rules. So this is a McDonald's, but it certainly doesn't look like a McDonald's that you would expect to see. You don't see the golden arches. You don't see the traditional look, because the whole town has the very same look with brick buildings and very nice looking.
Yeah, no large billboards or any big like golden arches up above or Arby's or Wendy's signs. So
there was some wildlife within the park, which is a bit surprising considering how urban of a national park this is. So of all the national parks, very much so urban.
Yep. And this gives you an example of one of the train depots along the way. So
just another pretty bridge.
A lot of towns were made to look kind of old. A lot of little tiny diners and places to eat, and the old grocery stores.
Little general stores and such. Yep. This is what the railroad stops look like. The red dot with the wings, like Miles was talking about on the map. This is what each of the scenic railway depots has a sign hanging, so you know it's this train station.
More wildlife.
nice hiking trails. And on your way back, you can stop at the Ohio State Capitol building in Columbus. And then in Dayton, you can stop at the United States National Air Force Museum and see so many airplanes. It's really awesome and it's free. Our third stop is going to be Southern Illinois, our shortest distance from where we live. You can see it's only about 4 hours to get there, with your first stop being Garden of the Gods, Illinois.
So from Garden of the Gods, you can see kind of the trail that we took all the way down to the Ohio River, including the town of Superman, and up towards Carbondale, which is where Southern Illinois University is.
So Garden of the Gods is a beautiful state park that is formed out of sandstone. A lot of sandstone rock features. Illinois state parks are free. Currently, they're all closed, so don't go right now. But when things reopen, they are all free. Just see the sandstone rock.
Yep, lots of beautiful views, beautiful women. All right, so this is Cave in the Rock. It's a town that's on the Ohio River, and in the 1790s, this hole in the wall, this cave in the wall, was really used by river pirates, and there were even the Harper brothers were
serial killers.
Yeah, serial killers. Thank you. and they'd use it as a hideout as people went through, or as people were looking for them. They just hide in the cave. And not too much later, 1816, it was actually first settled by normal people, non-killers and murderers and things like that. So
the next picture is a view of looking from inside the cave out at the Ohio River. The next stop is in Metropolis, which is Fort Massac State Park. There's evidence all the way back to the 1540s that Hernando de Soto maybe had some sort of fort here, but this fort is modeled after the version from 1757, which is a French fort. It actually received a lot of damage in the earthquake of 1811. That earthquake was so powerful it caused the Mississippi River to run backwards, and in doing so it caused a lot of flooding of the Ohio River as well.
And if you've watched some of our other videos, the actual old fort from DeSoto, they've kind of excavated a little bit, and from a satellite view, it looks very much like the fort in
St. Augustine.
St. Augustine. So Metropolis is the town of Superman.
And there's lots of statues or cutouts that you can stand behind and make yourself feel like Superman or Superwoman.
The one on the right's a cutout, the one on the left is real.
No. Next, you can go north to Mermitt Swamp Nature Preserve. There were a lot of lily pads. There was a walking trail along the way. Just a nice short stop.
And then Ferncliff State Park. Also a lot of very, very neat views.
And Ferncliff also has a nice waterfall. That's the main trail at the park. And then further north and slightly west is
Pomona Natural Bridge.
And exactly what it sounds like, sandstone still. All of southern Illinois would be sandstone. The picture on the left shows me standing on top of the bridge. You can't really tell, but you actually could walk underneath as well. It's a natural sandstone. Very much like Portland Arch Bridge Arch in Fountain County, Indiana. Similar to that, just in southern Illinois.
Yep. And the picture on the right, the big picture, we actually ended up taking a trail down to the lower level and hiking down there before, unfortunately, hiking back up.
And that's 3 trips that you can do in 4 days or less. 1 day driving, 2 days there, 1 day driving back. Hope you enjoyed.
Thanks for watching.